guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to run an email that was sent from a subscriber. That's from a guy, I believe he's in his late 40s. He is a father of 4, and he is a bachelor. A bachelor who has been free from a miserable, I guess about 20 years marriage to a gal he calls Jessica, who he eventually learned had borderline personality disorder. Oh, how wonderful. And as you can imagine, it was a miserable experience. But you're going to see that our guy, he's writing in to share all the things he's learned the hard way to help that you guys don't make his mistakes. He's quite humble about that. He knows where he messed up and all that. Borderline personality disorder, all those different types of things. You know the drill. And to share with you guys that even if you are in a bad situation, you can get out and you can be free and have a second shot, because he's now doing really well on multiple fronts. But holy crap, he went through a lot to get to that point. So starts up. Oh yeah, by the way, I do my Twitter, my X speech. If you guys happen to be on X or formerly Twitter, come check me out. The handle's SSM Channels. We're having a really good time over there, and it'll be a big help because it helps me market the channels, and there's no censorship. So if you want to come over, come join us. Even if you hate Elon, that's fine. That's your business. Fuck it, come over anyway. We're having a good time, and we can do what we want. Okay. He says, hello SSM. A long-time fan of your work. This is a tale of a long-time simp. I tried to do everything right, failed sometimes, got burned a lot, and has finally had enough. Well, that's what happens. That's what happens. Guys get pushed too far, and that's it. And then they're all like, why didn't I do this before? I feel great. I'm free from the Harpy. He says the TLDR version for young men is do not listen to what women say regarding personality traits they want in guys. The only reason they want nice guys is for their resources. You heard it right here, guys. Be confident and respectful. You focus on your grind. You focus on your grind and what you want. Make her chase after you. Do not tolerate bullshit. And you are the easiest person for you to bullshit. Don't tolerate bullshit from yourself. Constantly evaluate yourself and work to make yourself better every single day. These are great words of advice. He's about to tell a story where he messed up royally. And always stay the F away from borderline personality disorder chicks. If you don't know, go look up the testimony from the forensic psychologist at the Depp Heard trial. She'll describe in detail. Don't run away from those chicks. Well, you all remember Johnny Depp and Amber Turd, that whole fiasco. He says, my father was a great man. He busted his tail to make sure my mom and me and my family had what we needed. My mom worked, but my dad put in the hours, and in doing that, he wasn't around very much. So a lot of what I had to learn was from being told what women wanted from a woman's perspective. Honestly, I still think that the only man my mom approves of is my father, and that's because he doesn't tolerate her shit. A lesson I wish I had gotten sooner. Yep. As he said, he got a lot of his lessons about women from women. That's the last place you should get lessons about girls growing up and all that, taking advice. But guess what? I did the same freaking thing most of the time when I was younger. When I would go to my dad when I was younger and ask him advice, he would tell me things I didn't want to hear. No kidding, because that's who he was. Big surprise there, telling what people don't want to hear. And so I wanted to hear what I wanted to hear, so I would take advice from like friends who were girls, or my mom, or sister. How do you think that worked out for me when I was young? I should have listened to my dad. I learned eventually. Anyhow, in retrospect, this all plays a factor in the next 30 years of my life. I've been married twice and will never do that shit again. I want to have that in writing, and then I want you to have that in your office, on your refrigerator, everywhere, that you'll never get married again. I didn't really date until college. I messed up and missed out on hooking up with some very attractive French women my senior year of high school because I was, as I like to say, pathologically shy. So they were foreign exchange students or something? And have ever been the nice looking guy. I'm not a bad looking guy, but at 16 through 24, you wouldn't have been able to convince me otherwise. I was much more than a 4 or a 5. In my junior year of college, I've been dating a woman for 2.5 years, and I was stupid. She had zero respect for me, and despite all the fighting and us being miserable, we stayed together for that long. Because that's all you knew, that you thought you weren't worth anything. And to her, she probably thinks she couldn't do better, or she was cheating on you, and who the fuck knows? Or she probably just liked the drama. There's more to the story, of course, but everybody has heard it. Guy friends taking breaks to play the field. I actually still beat myself up over that. When we went on a break, of course, then I found a woman I could actually really date it. But as soon as she found out, oh, boo-hoo-hoo, I want you back. Of course, I was stupid and went back. Typical shit. I was a nice guy. People were very happy when we broke up. There you go. Things got bad. She rode the carousel, and you moved on, and she wants you back. Same old story. We've heard this before. The reason for a breakup, you ask, I had enough. After a pretty big car accident, I was broken. Failed out of college and moved back home to regroup. I worked at a factory and realized I was stuck. So I joined the military to figure out my stuff, and I had my head removed from my ass. She didn't want that life and broke up with me, which was okay. I was over it. Well, that's good. He says, you know the saying, if the military wanted you to have a spouse, they would issue you one? That should absolutely be the case. Man, do I wish it was. Unfortunately, I made the mistake that so many young enlisted do. I married at 26 years old, and I barely knew the woman I married, and thought it would all work out. Smack! How many guys have shared stories or told me or told in the comment section just what you said? If the Army or the Marines or wherever wanted to, you'd have a wife, they'd issue you one. Don't do it, guys. Wait till you get out. Can't stress that enough. I know, smack, smack, smack. Do not do this. The movie shit belongs in the movies. It's not real life. Life was okay. I had my oldest son, and then it all fell apart. As soon as I wasn't in the military anymore, she lost her right to brag. That was shortly after 2001, after all, and having a spouse in the military was a huge thing to her friends. Yeah, I can imagine. We moved back to the States, and I found a job. It didn't pay great, but I started to go back to school. Working my ass off between work and classes, and shortly after we moved back, I became the biggest piece of shit. I went from having SCX whenever I wanted to what I like to call the once a month and half plan. And that was at best. I would still help clean and cook and do stuff around the house. I spent time with my son, although in those early years, I wasn't the best dad. I was in a new state and working to make friends, so I would go out with coworkers once a week. You're a young guy. Here was where I was wrong, and it's important to make this clear. Despite the fact that I invited my spouse every single time we went out, I was still in the wrong. It was mixed company, and the optics were bad. Does that make me a horrible person? No. Well, here's what I found out later. The reason I was a huge piece of shit, and I mean she called work screaming on the phone at me to the point where the coworkers could hear and held up messages asking if I was okay, over the fact that I didn't cut the ropes off the Christmas tree so it could fall. I couldn't do a damn thing right. She had gone back to the affair she was having with her boss before we got married. Did you just say she was having an affair with her boss before you got married? Like you were together and she was having an affair with her boss at some point, like cheating on you, and you got married anyway? Smack! How'd that work out? So in other words, when you're saying you're the biggest piece of shit ever, you're being sarcastic. In her opinion, you were a piece of shit for basically existing. Of course, I decided to divorce her before I ever found that out, and I lived in a state where it was a no-fault divorce, and I was effectively an ATM and a sperm donor. That's how it works. And yet you got married a second time. Well, we're soon going to be on his second wife. Not nearly any normal amount of time later, I met, for argument's sake, Jessica. Started dating Jessica, and Jessica came from a decent enough family. The father worked for the same company for several decades, still married to her mother, who had been a Catholic school teacher, well-educated, survived a few bouts of cancer, and an older brother who was an EMS. I had no intention of getting married and was quite happy just having my fun. But oh, Jessica had a plan. Brothers, all Jessicas have a plan. All Jessica Jezebels. That's like in comics, you got names of people like Peter Parker and, first name, last name, same letter. Well, here our villain is Jessica Jezebel. From this moment forward, Jessica Jezebel is the one that you got to watch out for. She smelled blood in the water. I had not done nearly enough anything to fix myself. So very shortly after I got myself out of one bad situation, I found myself in another. Baby trap. Smack! Why did you rush into another relationship? What, to fix things? Because you felt like that your son needed a mama? That you had to have a wife? What was the deal here? She had your number, my man. As Jessica Jezebels do. I was blowing by red flags so fast, I didn't even have time to stop and think. The only thinking going on was by the head that definitely doesn't have your best interest in mind, and he's a fucking idiot. Yes, that head down south is most certainly a fucking idiot, guys. So, baby trapped, I decided to do the right thing without being smart enough to ask for a blood test. So I married her. Smack! Yeah, you're gonna see her being that stupid. What that got you. And things were okay until they weren't. He says, fellas, if the list of medications required to keep her normal enough to deal with is more than one, or that one is lithium, stay the fuck away. There you go. Probably been a good idea to notice that and understand that before you said I do. Again, periodically, I would be a huge piece of shit. Meaning in her eyes, of course. Alarm bells ring. I check phones because I've learned that lesson, and it appeared that it was out of meds. Wash, rinse, repeat for the next several years. The early years were tight financially, and I admit, when I was working more and she started working less, and cleaning less than that, I started to lose my shit. Every time I got a raise or changed jobs for better pay or more experience, she worked less. That ain't cool. You're just being another ATM. Every single time I would get gaslit about it. When my now youngest son turned 5, his first baby sister came into the world. And then 11 months later, daughter number 2. Yeah, no shit. And for those not keeping score, I'm at this point the father of, wait for it, 4 kids. Well, at least you got your kids out of it. And I'm going to say what we're all thinking. You all know I'm going to say. How do you know those are your kids? Well, you know what? I'm going to imagine you did your homework, or you don't want to fucking know, and that's your own business. But I sure as hell want to know. You should not have been tolerating this shit. This is the reason she was walking all over you, because you were taking it, dude. When daughter number 2 was found out, I scheduled a snip. I was done. And then 3 days later, before my appointment, daughter number 2 comes along a month early. No snip. For the next little while, most nights I'm sitting on the chair with my daughter in my arms, bottles under the chin, trying to get them to eat and sleep and go to sleep. Once they were down, I'd go clean up. About this time, Jessica decides that maybe it's time to go to school and get her degree. And you guessed it, what? Nursing. Oh my God. Borderline bitch disorder Jessica wants to become a fucking nurse. Oh, how wonderful. How appropriate. Well, even less work to make room for school. I was doing better for money financially, but with 4 kids, things were still tight. I was paying a significant amount for child support every month. You mean paying for the kids? You weren't separated. You were obviously married, living together. You just meant supporting the kids. So to make up the difference, I decided to go back to school for my MBA. It sounds counterintuitive, but I still had military benefits that would carry me most of the way through the program. I paid next to nothing for my degree. Okay, there you go. Oh, good for you. I was working ridiculous amounts of hours, plus going to school, plus working on the house as much as possible, and spending my times with the kids. Jessica was not happy. Of course she's not happy. None of these type of wives that behave like you talk about in these stories are ever happy. Because with how hard I was pushing to keep everything going, she had to help more, or not. She had always handled the bill payments, and I was getting calls about late bills all the time. Smack! Do not let her control the money. Is a terrible idea, guys. Man, you need to, first of all, separate your finances, but number 2, you're aware of the bills, and you're sitting down, and you're looking at each other's credit reports and credit card statements and stuff like that. I was getting calls about late bills all the time. In March of 2019, I was sitting in my favorite chair one morning, and from the second floor, I got a pregnancy test thrown at me, calling me a son of a bitch. What? That was fun. And then April of 2019, it happened again. 10 years of marriage in, and my gut was finally proven right one morning. Waking up in the morning, still in bed on a Saturday morning, kids were awake and running around the room, and Jessica shows me some deal she found on her phone. As I'm reading, I see a text pop through on her phone, saying, "Hey, you got a text from James." "Oh, what did it say?" she asked. "Not sure. Let me see." I opened the message app and read the text back to her. It took her a few moments to realize that I had started scrolling through her messages, and she quickly snatched the phone from me. "Oh, what's going on?" "Nope. Now I know you're wrong. Give me the phone." Cue to the Hobag Handbook chapter everything. I knew it was over. But I also knew she was pregnant. And again, I'm the dumbest nice guy. I spent the next year and a half separating finances, finding a new job that made as much or as little bit as much as I could, with my family being more, and making sure that when she decided to duck out, I could finally support my family. In October, we moved into her parents' house to help her dad care for her mother. For my birthday in late 2019, the conversation at dinner was this. Jessica says to me, "Hey, I just found out the dates to my Christmas party. I don't think you should go." Normally, wives want their husbands to come to the Christmas parties. He says, "Why shouldn't I go?" She says, "Well, James is going to be there, and I don't want you to make a scene." Are you fucking kidding me? And didn't you say you're planning to get rid of her, but I guess you had to get things worked out. I said to her, "Fuck you. On my birthday, you bring this shit up? Fuck you. And if I shouldn't be there, you shouldn't be either." Yes, I know, it was over, and it was the over the moment I had proof she cheated, and likely over the years before that. I was being a stubborn ass, thinking I could keep it together for my kids, and I held it together as long as I could. Well, that's commendable that you're trying to be strong and keep your family together for the kids, but how'd that work out? You've been fucking miserable. She's a psychopath. She's going to guarantee a rub off on them, if you're not careful, and she's fucking cheating on you. Yeah, I know you need to get your everything in order here, but my God, don't drag it any longer than you have to, dude. When I found out that while I was getting the kids ready for the funeral for her mom, and she went over to James's house. All the times I knew she was stepping out and the fights it caused. I would go to my parents for the weekend with the kids just to get out of that environment. And I would come home, do laundry, and find strange men's clothes in the basket. Oh my God, men's, plural, multiple dudes she's fucking. Again, I those kids, your kids, I'd have to know. But anyhow, Jesus Christ, man. She's a fucking train wreck. Right there in front of you. She doesn't care. She's a wacko. Borderline bitch disorder, but still, I believe a lot of this shit has to do with the fact that her perception of you is weak because you're putting up with her shit, and that caused a lot of the problems. So, both you made your mistakes, man. I'm not going to deny it, and I'm not going to let it go. But she is a fucking royal asshole, absolutely. But I know you learned. In early September of 2021, we had discussed moving to a different state to just start over. Yeah, right. How's that going to work? She's fucked all the guys in your state. She's got to go someplace else to live, huh? Over Labor Day weekend, we planned a trip to visit the state, and I find someplace to live and all that jazz. 3 days before we left, I found more texts to another guy at work, and I was done. Didn't you say you were done before? Now you're really done? When I looked in the mirror, I just saw a bitter, angry shell of myself. All life had drained from me. I was slightly higher than shit everywhere in my life. I was pretty much useless, but trying to hold shit together for my kids. And clearly you were, and I commend you for being strong for the kids, but you got to take care of you, buddy. In November of 2021, my grandfather died. Jessica did not come to the hometown with us and was late to the funeral and slept in her van for it. In December 2021, I got COVID. The Delta strain or whatever it was. If you went down the checklist of symptoms, I had them all. One night, as I was struggling to breathe due to pneumonia, it was the worst I'd ever been in my life. To this day, I would say that I was in the process of dying. My skin was gray and ashen, and I could barely move. She rolled over and went back to sleep. I closed my eyes, told God if he was ready, I was, but then I thought, who would take care of the kids? Only thing that went through my head. I got my ass up and fought to stay alive. And that's what it took, man. Yeah, because if you died, then Jessica has them. I'm sure in some capacity she's already done some damage to them, but you got to stay alive for your kids. I got some food and water in me, and I was pretty much crawling through the house at that point, but because I couldn't walk. I saw a doctor a few days later, and they asked me how I was still alive. Because you were using everything you had to stand up for your kids. And notice that Jessica wasn't helping you. Why didn't that bitch get the fucking COVID or whatever you had at the time? He says, men, you do not want to live like this. Yes, gentlemen, you don't want to live like this. This is why I do everything I can by sharing these stories to make sure you don't live like this. So, brother, I appreciate you sending in the story. And you know you fucked up. And that was the last time I tolerated it. Thank the Lord. The goal was to try to let the kids finish the school year. I started working on me. I started hitting the gym, eating better, studying my ass off, getting raises at work, and started to talk to a male therapist. Wonderful. Improvement every day. I got called into a therapist's office a few times, and I went for the amusement and the venting capability. In front of her therapist, I made her a deal, trying to save it still one more time for the kids. I thought you said you were ending this shit. We moved his proposition to his wife, to eventually get out of this. He says, we moved to an area we both like, and she gives life a try my way for 2 years. Ha! She still wants to walk. She can. In that time, I'll take everything she says she wants out of life, and we can start making them happen year 1. By year 2, we'll be coasting on Easy Street. The only thing I needed from her was a commitment to 2 years. For her to get a Monday through Friday job and a few Saturdays as a nurse. That's it. And a session shortly after that, it was let slip that she might have BPD. Oh, now there's the talk of the BPD, the first time. So in other words, you had a little 2-year plan to make it a little bit better, and she doesn't want to do that. I knew she wouldn't go for it. I believe her response was, I don't think I can commit to so much time. Well, 13 years in, I can't commit to another 2 years to get all her stated dreams met. Told me everything I needed to know right then and there. She would never be happy living with me. No, she would not. She wouldn't be happy with anybody. Oh my God, man. How much suffering do you got to go? I mean, that's the thing, guys. So many men out there just have to go through so much pain and suffering until they finally wake the fuck up. And I know you were trying to stay strong for the kids, but there's a point. Papa, you got to take care of you. Well, I talked to a lawyer the next day to plan my escape from her and the place I found myself in, to move the kids to a new state and get them out of school. Is this for real this time? Jesus. A few days later, she told me that she didn't want to be married anymore to anyone, and she didn't even want to be a mom. There's a fucking surprise. You're like, thank you, Jesus. Please, can I get this in writing so I can have full custody of the kids? Well, yep, that's definitely it. I started to make plans at work so I could work on a hybrid schedule, which meant only one night away from the kids, and I got to keep a good job with good benefits, and my parents could help me out. Good. Have a plan. By April 2022, I left. Thank God. All those years of suffering. When you could have done that early. You know you could have done that earlier. I moved back to my hometown. I kept pressing on. Good. That's what a man does. I dated a few women, but really wasn't into relationships. Gee, I wonder why. You shouldn't have been dating any women for a long time, man. You had to work on yourself. I was getting used to being alone. Honestly, it's one of the best things you can do for yourself and your mental health. Be alone. If you're uncomfortable in the silence, work on you until you're very comfortable. Yes, being alone is wonderful. You can go see people when you want to see people, but peace and quiet, no drama. Many of you know this wonderful joy of peace and quiet and no drama. And for those of you who crave it, make it happen. There's peace in dining alone, going to see a movie alone, going for long walks in nature, and taking care of yourself. I was so into being there for my kids, I lost sight of taking care of me. Even now, if I had not to be home, my kids struggle because I'm the permanent fixture in their lives. Well, you're not totally alone, dude. You have your kids. If you're talking about like a girlfriend or wife, your kids are with you, so you're not alone. I mean, a bunch of kids, there's always commotion going on. Cue to today, divorce is final. Awesome. I owe her money for my freedom, worth the cost of my peace. I have my kids 70% of the time. That's great. But I wish it could be 100%, because didn't she say, I don't want to be a mom anymore? I moved to a job closer to home that's given me an avenue to grow some skills I have let slide, and that it pays well. Great, dude. I have started dating. Oh, you have you? Girl I knew in high school. She's wicked smart. Wicked smart. Are you from Massachusetts? Or somewhere, Rhode Island, somewhere near there, New Hampshire? She's wicked smart. No desire to get married. That's good. And has proven time and time again to be loyal. Okay, that's good, but that could change in a heartbeat, you know it. Yes, she does get checked. Well, I hope so. After everything you've been through, you better check her if she's being a pain in the ass on occasion. No, we don't live together, and no plans anytime soon. Good, there's no reason to live with her. Yes, she's a single mom. Bro, have you not learned from my stories, a single mom? Tell me those kids are out of the house or something at the very least. Yeah, smack. Can you be trusted? Oh, no, I don't pay to support her boys. You better not. But I do try to pass on sage advice when I can. Well, you can pass on advice if you are living that good advice. But if you're not living that good advice, you shouldn't be giving advice. I know you right now you're messed up here, but not all single MOMs are the devil. But let me tell you, even the good ones are going to be a handful. With the kids, like, you have a date with a single mom and she's still pretty cool, but one of the kids gets sick, well, then date night's over. Of course, she takes care of her kid, but still, it's a pain in the ass for you if that's the only night you got free. Or if any of her kids say, "You're not my dad, you can't tell me what to do." That's the type of shit. And that's the good stuff. Hello, the best. So be very careful, but man, I'm afraid you're not going to be careful enough, and next thing you know, you're getting fucking married again. Don't do it. And all, says I give sage advice to them in all the ways that matter of fact, as far as I can tell. She's actually a good one. We're enjoying the time we can spend together, and she's helped me to find my dogs, which have really helped me and the kids. In general, I still struggle with teenagers because that's what you do with teenagers, just living the life though. The lessons that SM talks about are important, fellas. Follow them, focus on yourself and making you better, and the rest will come. Well, that's a good way to end it, and yes, you should listen to me. And dude, okay, it is what it is. You're with this lady, a single mom, and you say she's cool and loyal and fun and all that, but you do check her because guess what? Even the good ones you got to check on occasion when they're being a pain in the ass. Anytime you feel inclined to take the relationship to the next level, or you're thinking about moving in together or whatever, remember your miserable marriage. Remember me. Picture me. If you think you want to get married again or move in with this single mom, I want you to picture what I would say. I'd smack the shit out of you right there. Even though you were in the military, I'd still smack the shit out of you. And don't forget it. And think of your kids. She's cool now, but you've heard plenty of stories where all of a sudden that coolness goes away real quick when the real true colors comes out, when she starts getting certainty that you ain't going anywhere. Your kids come first. You come first before any companionship from any chicks. Didn't you say earlier how being alone is so wonderful, the peace of quiet, and going to the movies and going for a walk in nature and scuba diving and riding your bike or whatever the fuck you know? So remember that. Take your time. Do not get married again. There's no reason to live together. And once her boys, I don't know how old they are, out of the house, if you're still together, of course, they're out of the house, that's about the only time they could be somewhat okay with a cool single mom. If the kids are adults and they're out of the fucking house, out of the picture and all that, and even then, you got to be careful. Please be careful. But anyhow, bro, the lesson of the story is you endured so much shit that you shouldn't have had. Got involved with that BPD asshole. You didn't know she had BPD back then. You got to do your homework, gentlemen. You got to spend a lot of time getting to know your girl. As in getting to know the girl you're with right now. She could be another Jessica for all you know. You have a tendency to attract a certain type. That girlfriend from college, your first wife, and the second wife, Jessica. Be careful, man. This chick could be another Jessica, a wolf in sheep's clothing. So be careful, please. But anyhow, those are the lessons, guys. You take your time, you pay attention, and if you're in a bad situation, get out of there. Find a way. It's not worth being miserable all these years. It's commendable, the man that tries to stay strong for the kids and stay in it, but guess what? The kids know you're miserable, and it's going to have a ripple effect on them. So anyhow, I'm glad you're free. Please make the right decisions. May the force be with you, and I hope you're going to be all right. All right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. I know you're going to give him shit for the ending, and I can't blame you at all, but still, give him a shout out. Give him some advice. Help the guy out. And be sure to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.